Well, hi, we're welcome here to PACA 2, and we're going to tackle the dramas and traumas of what's happening with the horizontal jumps in the U.S. And we're blessed tonight to have Randy Huntington here as one of our guest speakers, and of course, all of you as our guest speakers too, because what we want to find out is why did we have the top jumpers in the world back 20, 30, 40 years ago. And now we can't even get a U.S. man in the finals of the long jump at the Worlds or at the Olympic Games. So that's a task that we need to definitely tackle here as we move forward. Randy, let's kind of start. And for those of you that don't know, Randy coached Mike Powell, who is still the current world record holder in the long jump. And he coached Willie Banks when Willie set the world record in triple jump. So if anybody knows about horizontal jumps and being successful, it's this man, Randy Huntington. So, Randy, thanks for your time tonight because I know you're very, very busy all over the world. But what would you say is the difference between the past and now? What made that past so exceptional?
Well, I'm glad Norm's on here because he even has a longer history than I do in terms of what we've seen. We've had this discussion several times over the last the years here, particularly, in the last 2 years, at least twice. And I think it always comes down to, and I don't want this to sound horrible, it comes down not to coaches' education, because the coaches are getting educated, but maybe the coaches not knowing which things to select or to place priority on in order to achieve the things they're trying to achieve. I'm still watching at the Olympic Games. I mean, I was talking with the Swiss coach not that long ago with his jumper, and the Swedish coach with his jumper, and obviously the Chinese who aren't doing this. But I continue to be shocked that there still is not a penultimate step in almost most of the long jumpers, that they just, this basic mechanism that was pointed out ad nauseum by Dr. Hay and others is still not being done, and not being taught or not being um, prioritized. I mean, I do recall back in the day when oh geez, sorry, Middle Tennessee
Dean Hayes.
Dean would say never to look at it, never to focus on it. And we didn't see eye to eye on that because I felt it was a teachable technical component. And when I was in Paris watching, and we just didn't get people doing it. It's like, I see people with the same speed, the velocity, ability to achieve 850, 860, 870 jumps. I don't see a penultimate, and I see them running over the top of the board, never really creating that vertical velocity necessary. And they have 46 meters to get horizontal velocity, and then they're not doing what they need to actually create the vertical velocity to get the parabola they need to jump far. That's just kind of my take on it, and this is not a take from just now. It's a take from 30 years. I
Mhm.
mean, it's been since '96 that I've been observing this. And when I was in Chula Vista, we had the same problem. The women had it really bad. Um, Obviously, right now we've got a couple women who are starting to do it well. Um, but once Shanna was kind of graduated, it was a bit, except for um, we sorry, I'm forgetting names, guys, but just 3 or 4 time medalist. You know, she had a long last step, did some cases in 2009 and some others, but there's different problems between the men and the women. But the fundamental problem is what happens in the penultimate step. What is happening with the free leg? What's happening with the lowering the center of mass? And then what that's doing to actually the takeoff itself. That's my take on it so far.
So what are we not doing in the penultimate then? Or what you just took us through three or four
Yeah.
steps there.
Yeah. What Well, with the women, and you've heard me say this, Sue, a number of times, and you were with me when we first
Yep.
went through this in Austin, where we looked at why we took. For those of you who weren't there, and I don't think there's anybody on here that was besides you and I, we brought in the top high jumpers, top triple jumpers, and top long jumpers. Now, mind you, this is a long time ago,
Hmm.
maybe 93 or 94, somewhere in
Yes.
what year
Yeah.
it was. And from Dr. Hay, I had asked him in 1990. I said, Dr. Hay, what is the precursor to jumping? What biomotor ability is the precursor to jumping? And, I mean, Dr. Hay is as bright as they come. And he says, Randy, I don't know. He says, but I will find out. And, a week later, he calls me back and he says, it's galloping. I went, it's really. And he says, yeah, they've been doing the studies on it. He says, look, the problem is that the first thing kids do, if you go to an elementary school, you'll see them gallop before they skip.
Hmm.
And then they stop galloping and they just start skipping, then they jog and they run and they play. And from there it goes. But without that basic ability, you can't jump. Now, when we had those women there, all the high jumpers could gallop, triple jumpers, almost none. Sheila Hudson could. And in the long jumpers, nobody but Sheila was also there in the long jump group.
Hmm.
Nobody could gallop. So they didn't have essentially didn't have the basic biomotor ability to actually go vertical at takeoff, where of course the high jumpers did because that's what they did for a living. And if you look back on the women, Jackie, Shanna, others, uh, there's many others, but
Hmm.
they were all basketball players. Sheila Hudson was a basketball player. Now, I know from some of you may not even know who these people are, but um, and so in 2002, 2002, we had nationals at Stanford, I believe it was, wasn't it? Yeah, two or three, I can't remember, two, I think. And we started looking at the women, and forgive me because I am repeating myself from previous conversations. And all the women had two problems, two glaring issues. I think that was one in 642. The national championship won in 642. Obviously, we've improved on that today with the way some of the women are jumping here. But in general, and by the way, in China, it's a huge problem still. Um, the women were too far from the board, one, and they were recovering their heel really high to their butt. So they were taking an extra long step. Many of them were fouling from distances farther than the men were from the board. Which we filmed them all, looked at them all. This is when we were starting the dartfish stuff, and we saw that all these women, nobody understood how to do the last three steps. They just weren't getting. It wasn't being taught.
Hmm.
Now, sorry to give you such a historical perspective, but my point as I move forward with the women is it hasn't changed enough with everybody. You're going to have outliers, and a few good coaches are going to pick this up and they're going to make it happen. And there are obviously we've had some high school kids that have jumped pretty well in recent years. Um, but on the men's side, on their side, it's the opposite side. So the women, it's the free leg side. On the men's, well, women have the same problem too, but the men's side, they're just not lowering their center of mass. And they just don't know how to lower their center of mass well and maintain horizontal velocity through the penultimate step.
Well, the interesting thing is when Carl Lewis was on a month or so ago, he said the relatively the same thing about the last few steps. And he said, that last three steps need to be long, short, short, and that nobody's teaching that. And so,
Maybe they are. I don't know. I mean, maybe they are teaching it. And it's just not, well, maybe they're saying it, but it's
yeah,
not getting
they're
absorbed.
not teaching it.
Yeah.
Well, Andy works with Carl every day. So, Andy, what
Yeah.
is your input on this?
Well, I just wanted to clarify something in my mind. Going back to the gallop, that's simply a measure of of coordination, biomechanical awareness. I mean, there's nothing intrinsic in being able to gallop and long jump far. You're using that as a test as to their bodily awareness. Is that correct?
Coordination. The coordination.
Coordination,
It is a biomotor ability. It is one of
right?
your basic biomotor skills. Without
So
it,
if they're able to do that, then they should have
it
the
gives
skills
them,
to be able to long
yes,
jump properly.
exactly, Andy.
Got it.
Without
Okay.
that, you can't. You just don't know how. You know, your body doesn't know where to put its pieces
Mm-hmm.
to make that happen. It may happen by mistake or occasionally, um, but it won't happen planned. It won't be a planned event as part of what you're doing in the last three steps.
So if we're not teaching it correctly, how do we teach it correctly?
Oh, well, teach them how to gallop first, even though I know on here, I think, Jerome, maybe you're doing galloping drills now, and a few other people, I have to look down the list here, but people have picked up on what galloping is. Now, there isn't a video, but we probably should have one. Somebody, I don't have any athletes at this point, guys, so it'd be hard for me to do. But if you know, there's probably 7 or 8 different ways to gallop that will enhance different event abilities. You know, you can even gallop in the javelin. You know, that last step can even be thought of as a gallop, as a papa, you know. And the gallop also, Andy, helps you with understanding and feeling that rhythm that you're trying to feel, as Carl said, long, short, short. Well, gallop can teach you that long, short, short coordinative rhythm as well. It's a big part of it. How do you integrate it? Which I think is what your question is.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if they have some other.
Let's see what David put up here.
David just put up some. Yeah, see if we can bring that up.
Specific plyometric that we can do.
Can you see that, Randy? Or
I can't. You'll have to share your screen, I think.
oh, okay. Let me get this figured out. Oh, that's not right. This should be. Okay, let's see. Can you guys see? Can you see this guy bounding? I mean, oops.
Just hit that one on the left so it'll replay it.
I mean, it's like they used to ride, like we used to do little ride the broomstick as a horse
Absolutely,
back
Miss
in the
Nancy.
kindergarten days. I have my kids do it, and you know, and some are not quite as efficient as others, but I have incorporated that since you brought that up several years ago.
Yeah, I think you were trying with your high school girl, weren't you? Or was it the guy originally? I can't remember.
Both, yeah.
Both.
Yeah, the high school guy that I had that went 25-3, he would do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, I know there was a carryover there. But Alvin, does that give you an idea of what you want, I mean, to see?
That's that right there that we just saw is a basic gallop coordinative drill. It's not necessarily a gallop that you would do for high jumping or a gallop you would do for long jump, or even for that matter, sprinting, because you can also gallop as a sprinting mechanism. But to do it for the long jump, you're going to want to lower your center of mass with one of those legs, and more than likely it's going to be the first one. And in his case, it would be the left. And then you want to bring a low heel recovery through. You know, some of you may have seen or heard, I think Brooks might have done it. I don't remember. I've done it. Lauren's done it for years. But, you know, we go and we do the kick the ball drill. And that by doing the kick the ball, which is the action of the foot from the foot from the second left to the board, When you do that drill, you actually are learning to bring your foot through low. And when we were looking at the 2002 group, to go back to them 23 years ago, I know it's not here now, but I think that the carryover still exists. All of them across the board had a heel recovery going to the boards, with their free leg heel recovery going to the board was above their knee.
Right.
And in most cases, way above their knee. And if we go back to our old terminology, the cut step, which is used in pole vault, high jump, long jump, hurdling, and triple jump for that matter, you are looking for a cut step there. And so I don't think people, and I don't know, Andy, if Carl uses the term cut step or not, or Jerome, if you do, but the cut step is what we've called it for 50 years plus. Where you're cutting the calf or cutting the ankle, but it's when you cut it, not just the fact that you do cut it. Some people think that if they let their foot drag behind and then it can come down and cut it. It doesn't. You've got to take your foot off the ground and you lead with the top of your foot. So it's a top of the foot lead to the board. That's how you keep that foot low. So when you're doing it, and in a lot of cases these days, I actually have shoe weights. I'll put on the shoe because people, see, Adrian's saying cut the calf. It's in the long jump, it's actually shorter than that. Now, it true, cut the calf in some other events, but in the long jump, you want to cut right above the ankle bone, medial malleolus, if you wish. It's a really low cut because in order to go long, short, short, you can't have a high heel, or that creates a very long frequency, if you wish, to the board. It's too much time. And when you do that cut step, you get that long short.
Right. And that, I know we brought that up a lot, whether it be in the sprinting or the jumping type of bringing that low heel recovery with that. Jerome, did you have anything you'd like to add at this point? You're on. There you go.
Yeah, it basically what Randy's saying is basically everything that I do. I try to cue with bringing that heel just above the ankle, and it's almost like sometimes you want to feel like you're hitting the brakes so you can focus on the vertical velocity, vertical takeoff. Because when we do it slow, the way I do it is I have them think is if you're doing gallops, we're doing it slow, you're focusing on the vertical. So when we speed it up, your body's still thinking vertical, but that extra velocity is going to have you, be able to get off the ground better. Because a lot of times, like Randy said, the penultimate is really hard for some of these kids to learn, and the best way that I do it is start with 2 steps, then we get into the gallops, and just go from there.
Okay, great. Well, and Jerome was a 27-foot plus long jumper, so he could make the finals now, beating our current U.S. No, the the veteran Jerome.
The veteran, not now.
The older Jerome could come back now and make the finals at USA's. And so that's why, we're going to reference you a lot on this because you were part of that era. And it's like why we're going backwards with this, definitely. Randy, would you say the athletes are different today at all, or is it the way the coaching isn't keeping up with the event?
Well, so it's, to be real honest with you, it's very difficult for me to be the guy to talk about that because I haven't coached in the United States since 2006. So I haven't actively seen or felt what it is that you guys are all going through. Mostly because nobody wanted me to coach him or whatever, and I didn't get a job in the U.S., so I ended up in China. And so in China, the problems were the same. Sprint mechanics were much worse. Sense of what the rhythm on the runway didn't exist. It was wrong. Last three steps, they just ran. They were taught to run off the board. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, except they were just running off the board. There was no change. There, a lot of them were very long. They were long, um, or same, if you wish. Uh, they're not as mature as American athletes in general. Takes them a lot longer to mature. And I can't tell you how the American child is today because I've not been around them. And I know that the rest of you could have, I mean, I can say this with the loss of physical education in the schools, I know you guys you're having to get a different athlete than you were, even 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Yeah, very true.
I do know that in my own personal coaching history, even way back in the 80s, I'd get athletes. I still had to go back to rudimentary things, and although we may be coaching at an elite level, we're still doing all the stuff you have to do with a child to go relearn, undo, and relearn these biomotor abilities, which is much harder than teaching him in the first place.
Right, exactly. Now, how is it, you mentioned the triple jump or the penultimate. We've been told don't do much of a penultimate in triple. Is that true or is that wrong?
I think that in the triple, a little bit of it's dependent on your height. There's a certain center of mass that you have to go up in the air some if you're really short. Short GT, not short body height, but short GT length. And you'll get some women who are 5'5", but they've got the legs of somebody who's 5'10". Same for the men. So that's why I don't like talking about body height. I usually like to talk about leg length.
Okay.
And the experience has been that someone like Sheila, who was 5'3" with short legs, was Asian, being Korean descent. She had to put it in a little penultimate. Now Willie did a penultimate, but Willie was taught to, and we had to undo that. That was not something I had to take that away from him, and even though we tried, we never got it away completely. I was doing a lecture with Jonathan the other day, not the other day, 2 months ago, with Edwards, and we talked about it there too. And he did not actively do a penultimate step. Yet if you watch a couple of his jumps, he's definitely penultimate. I can't speak for Kenny. I don't know what he did. When you're talking about three, Christian sometimes did one. But Christian's takeoff to me was a little strange anyways with that double arm. I've never been a proponent of it. That's your 4 or 5 top guys in the world all time right there. I mean, in general, we try to get to these days, we try to not do a penultimate unless you're really short. I had Dong Bin, who was a 1758 kid, bronze medalist Rio, gold medalist indoors in Portland. And he had to, because he wasn't very big. His legs were really short, very powerful. But he came to the table with it, and he was 27, 28 years old. How much am I going to change him there? All I did with someone like him is I made sure that he was trying to get more on top of his foot, even if he was going to do a penultimate, his hips on top of his foot. And then that projected him into the triple jump itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we talk about not doing a penultimate. We're really talking about what's the action of the last step to the board.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Now, Jim, you've got a question here for us.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, Randy, are there specific distances? I remember Carl had some cones on his where he said Coach Tellez had a long, short. Are there specific distances for men and women that can be?
Well, I think you've heard me say this before, Jim, on the older calls, but when Dr. Hay and I were looking at all of this, in my very first, and I don't remember for sure if No, I don't know if Norm was there the first time we did. It's about 1980, 86 or 87. Um, when Dr. Hay had finished, it was 87. It was fall of 87. We had finished in Indianapolis, of course, with no in 88. No, it was 87. And we were looking at the videos, and Dr. Hay went through them all and everything, and he showed us all the fair jumps. And I said, Dr. Hay, where are the fouls? He said, well, we don't measure the fouls. I said, yeah, but those are our long jumps. I want to know what they're doing during the long jumps, the longest ones, not the shortest ones or the ones that are fair, because I mean, sort of what we're seeing now with this board, the way they're going with it.
Right.
We had some guys doing monster fouls. So what are they doing right? The fouls have to be right, because they're just so big. Obviously, some of the boards are a little raised and whatnot. But off of that, we came back and started looking at distances, Jim, to get to your question. And we came up going historically and looking at the distances that have been measured at major championships over the years, and came up with the distance to the board for the women, anywhere between 1.8 to 2.1 meters. And for the men, 2.0 to 2.3. Now, are there outliers and inliers to that? Yeah, I mean, in Tokyo, suggested Carl was like at 1.86, which means he was jammed up on the board, which is probably why he didn't go 9 meters 20 on us that day, But
That's the last step.
yeah, that's the distance from the last step to the board. If you're not in that zone, you literally cannot probably jump far unless you're way back like Bob was, and you're blocking, and you're so fast that you can get away with it. But there's a few individuals that can do that, but they're rare. So yeah, that was the magic number. Now, to take that another step back, so we look at 2.1 to 2.3, then we look at a double that. So if we're looking at the third step, we're looking at 4.2 or 4 meters to 4.6 somewhere. And there, again, it's a zone. It's not a place. It's a space that you're looking to put your foot into. And most of the time, my Chinese jumpers were 4.3 to 4.4 on the second to last step. Mike was probably a little farther out. I'd have to look at his numbers again. And Carl was probably farther out yet, because Carl had a pretty pronounced push into his penultimate. So, but in general, Mike and Carl's numbers were between 2.2 and 2.3, 2.23, 2.25, 2.26, 2.24, somewhere in that range. Now, as I spoke of the Stanford situation with the women, they were at 2.35, 2.5. That's how far away they were from the board. So, Jim, if they get out there, bye-bye, not happening. And some of them were fouling from that because they had to jump onto the board. And you had to get their legs stiff. And there's no way to bring your leg down if you're lifting your leg with your quad to hold it up there.
As I remember, and Andy, maybe you can remember this, but Carl had said there was like because I asked him specifically, what was the difference between the third long step and then the second and first short steps? And I thought he said like 25 to 27% difference. Would that make sense? Or am I not remembering it?
It's about, he's not far off. No, I mean, between the last step and from the penultimate to the board versus the penultimate back, that's called 2LL. But 2.4 puts you at about 20%. So, it's close to 20% difference.
Okay.
And so 25 is not far off. Carl's was definitely out in the 25% range.
Okay. So, Jim, does this give you an idea of what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Randy.
Okay.
Sure.
Totally separate now. Aaron, You want to ask your question, please?
Hello. Yeah, I was just asking about if you have any insight if any of the kind of financial incentives are different. I mean, I coach a few jumpers now, and I think in general it's just there's unless you're like really, really good out of the NCAA, you're not going to get paid much. And by much, I mean like living wages. You know, guys are getting like 25K, retainers and stuff like that, or zero. And even if you look at again some of the top guys right now in America, a lot of those guys aren't sponsored. And so because of that, my hypothesis is that maybe that we're not getting enough time with the right guys to develop them to where they need to be, or those guys are just going to lean more towards sprinting or something like that. But I don't know if it was different, 20, 30 years ago as far as the financial incentives, but it seems like it's tough now because people aren't really getting paid, and the coaches are going to definitely be coaching more sprinters than jumpers.
Certainly for a while, Carl was taking all the money. He was.
No, I
And
know.
then Larry was getting what was left over. And then when Conley came around, Mike would get, but that'd be over in the triple jump. And Willie was taking the money. There isn't as much money to go around as I'm aware of. It's also extremely difficult to get yourself into the diamond leagues, which is where you can make money. We didn't have back in those days. Carl had sponsors. Willie did. Larry. Mike didn't have anybody for the first 2 years, almost 3 years. And he certainly was not prepared. His agent had not prepared him to get money when he broke the world record. We don't have a personality, and we have one. And obviously, she's doing it. She's a personality.
Mhm.
But on the men's side, no offense, but it's kind of boring, And I hate to say the squeaky wheel thing, but it's in a position I think now because it's not my nature. I don't really like it, but I understand it from a business standpoint. It was nothing for us to go over to Europe, and we paid our own way. I paid my own way, whatever I could scrounge up. I don't know that people are willing to sacrifice as much as they did then. And I think Kathy, Kathy's last name, but blanking Kathy. I remember Kathy talking to Danny Paffnine one day, and she goes, you guys would go sleep on a park bench over there just to be able to coach. And I'm like, yeah.
Mhm.
No, yeah, we have. As a matter of fact, yeah.
Yeah.
I slept on a park bench in Brussels one night, So no, I mean, it's just a different willingness to sacrifice. To your point, though, Aaron, yeah, you do need some time. It's not a short journey to greatness, and if someone comes out with great talent and comes out of college without having had the technical abilities reinforced and taught well, then you have to undo them. So you just lengthen the time. And so you're really still looking at 3 years to probably bring a great jumper around. I mean, it took me 3.5 with Mike. I'm sure it took Coach Tellez at least 2 or 3 with Carl, even though, and I have a kid now who at 19 jumped 843. That's a big jump,
Yeah. Is that China?
Yeah, Chinese kid. And then the other Chinese kid that won worlds, he jumped 847 at 21.
Mhm.
So, but in their case, they're just limited. I mean, they're just limited. The one good Chinese kid was just an idiot, unfortunately. He wanted to be a rock star, but didn't want to do anything to be it. And I'd say that's unfortunate because he probably was an 870 jumper. So I can't speak to the American way right now, Aaron, because I know that it's not easy. But what do you do? I mean, people worked. We had back then. We had the Home Depot, the Home Depot situation. A lot of people worked at Home Depot.
Mhm.
I mean, and I don't know what what the current situation is at USATF in terms
It's
of.
pathetic. It's pathetic, and there is no development whatsoever. And they're counting on the NC2A to be the developmental programs. And unfortunately, the NC2A, as we know that are NC2A coaches, you're going for the foreign athlete or the older athlete who can score for you right away. We do want to, before we move on here, Andy, I want to congratulate Aaron on your victories this year with Thea LaFond, the Dominica, is that it?
Dominica.
Dominica. And
Dominica.
actually, I coached a kid from Dominica many years ago when he was in high school, and he made sure I said it right. But Aaron's wife is Thea LaFond, the triple jump gold medalist. Did she win indoors and the Olympics? Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
two-time gold medalist. So definitely uh, jump in here as you see some topics that you'd like to share with, because
Yeah, Aaron, let me get out of the way now.
I don't
Andy,
have any world records, so you can keep talking.
Hey, I don't have any gold medalists. Not true. I do have some gold medals, but not in the Olympics.
Andy, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, just kind of a comment going back to what Aaron, the question he brought up. You know, if people were jumping far, people would be excited about the event.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when people are jumping high 26s and making finals, people knowing the history of what's come before are not thrilled by that. 27 shouldn't thrill anybody. But if people are consistently going 28 and there's more than one of them, people will get excited about it. I mean, if people in the men in the hundreds don't start running, sub 980 pretty soon, that's not going to be a glamorous event. Not when they look back and they see what was happening, 20 years ago. And so, it's a matter of, in my opinion, perception. If you have two or three people who are jumping really far, people will get really excited. But if, Norm, this is I'm not casting shade, but when you were jumping in the mid 60s, you could make nationals next week, and the long jump's the only event that you could probably say that about. Now, you were, a phenomenal jumper, but that was 60, 65 years ago. How is it that what you jumped back then is good enough not to make the final, but probably you'll get into the final, but you would definitely make the meet? I don't think there's four jumpers that are over 26 feet in the United States right now indoors to go to nationals. And so, yeah, people won't get terribly excited about the long jump, but you get a few people. I was shocked at this. Carl told me that he jumped over 27 feet, close to 50 times before he ever jumped 28.
Yeah.
That's how hard the long jump is. I mean, I agree totally with him. And Randy, and Norm, you may agree with this as well. That it's the hardest event in track and field. Because if you go back 60 years, 65 years, you won't see in any other event marks that are comparable to what are being done now. If you ran what you ran in the 60s in the 100 meters now, nobody would know your name. You would, because you wouldn't qualify for anything.
Well, Jesse
the long
been
jump
placing in most of the event, most of the
right, just about any event you name.
You know, when you
but then you look at the long jump and it's not the case. And I don't think it's simply a matter of there are great athletes in all these other events and there aren't great athletes in the long jump.
Oh, no.
I think it's, like I said, it takes, and Randy, you just said it, it takes a long time
It
to
does.
learn the event and be excellent at it.
See, I'd like to
And
know,
I'm not sure how many people give it the time that it deserves.
Andy, it'd be interesting to know how, when Carl said 50, how many years that was before he hit 28. I don't know. To tell you the truth, that would be
Well,
a,
here's a little bit of insight into that. Carl was the high school record holder in the long jump when he entered University of Houston. He had enough faith and trust in Tom to change nearly everything. He said it took him 18 months to jump better than he did in high school. Now, how many athletes this year who were that good would be willing to spend 18 months relearning the event that they thought they were excellent in?
Right.
well,
Right.
it's funny that you say 18 months because I use that number a lot in the jumps. I said,
I use
in
2 years.
experience, boy, it's 2 to 3 years,
Yeah, I use 2
18
years.
months for sure. Minimally, it's usually 18 months to bring somebody around. Now, in order to do that, for those of you that we're all coaches, all of us know that in order to get that trust, you got to give them something along the way, so they go, oh, okay, I'm better. Now I'm going to dig in and take this journey with you. Norm's been through. I mean, Norm, there's, and I just remember on the practice track in Eugene, Norm, in 2014 when you had those young fellas there, and you introduced me, and then we introduced the two Chinese kids.
Chinese kids.
And then the one kid went on to win worlds.
That's
World
right.
teams. But like, for instance, what happened to those young men? Did they ever develop into jumpers?
No. Mm-mm.
Was there a reason what happened along the way, or just
Well, it was World Juniors, so they had their own coaches after they left.
Yeah.
For the short period that we had to work with them was no more than 8 days.
oh, okay.
But then they went back to their respective schools and coaches, and then disappeared. And they had talent.
Yeah,
They had talent,
that.
but they just literally disappeared. Um, and you was talking about length of time. I jumped 25-4 as a freshman in college. That was 61. I didn't jump 27 feet until 1970. But I was running, I was sprinting, and I was also triple jumping. So I was doubling in most meets. But once I started to focus on the long jump was actually from 68 on after Mexico City. And it took me, a couple of years after that to I was consistently jumping 26 plus, 26 high, and then finally went, 824. So it takes time. One of the things I'm still coaching now, the Division III school, and these kids today, first of all, they aren't patient enough to want to put the work in.
Right.
Number one, and number two, most of them are sprinters that think they can be jumpers instead of the reverse. I went to school as a jumper. I high jumped in high school also, and I high jumped a little in college. I jumped 6'9" doing the straddle. But I was a jumper first and became a sprinter. And basically, Carl was a jumper that became a great sprinter. These kids now are sprinters that think they can jump, and man, they know nothing about penultimate. They just run up. You look at these kids now, and the first thing I ever noticed is that they have no height at all. So they find themselves rushing through their technique through the whole jump. It's like, everything is like, speeded up, and no height. And that's the first thing, I try to tell them, if there's no vertical, you won't get distance. The speed is going to take you out there. Okay. But it's the preparation, to get the vertical lift off the board And Jerome knows, I coached Jerome for a few years. And that was one of the things that, even in, like, we didn't, gallop back then. We did a lot of skips and bounds, but the one thing to always focus on with those guys was that, you have to get some vertical off of the takeoff. And again, these jumpers now, I mean, they come, it's almost like they're doing a high knee at the takeoff. They're bringing the knee up waist high to put their foot back down, and it literally takes up so much time that they lose the acceleration that you want. So there's just a lot of different mistakes that they have, and I think a lot of the college coaches aren't focusing on the jumps. Um, uh, 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 you know, uh, Certain schools have great jumps coaches, but a lot of them don't. And so they're not focusing on the jumps, and they just have some good sprinters that they'll throw in the long jump. And I mean, Tommy Smith, when I was in college, Tommy Smith jumped 25 plus, and he wasn't a jumper, but he utilized his speed. And that's what a lot of these kids today, they're not, you can't call them jumpers. They're sprinters that think they can jump. I have kids on my team like, oh, coach, why don't you put me in the long jump? And I said, well, let me, take 4 steps and do a pop up. And it looks like they're going to break his neck and stuff, because they're not jumpers. And I tell people, I was self taught. I even, told Randy one time, I wish I had a coach, that knew the jumps. I was self taught, but I grew up in West Virginia. We used to practice. We used to run and jump off the top of snake dumps. So I learned about balance, because if you didn't, go head first and break your neck and stuff. And I learned the faster you ran off the top of the slate dump, the further out you went, the further down to the bottom of the slate dump you landed and stuff. And we were constantly competing. So when I started jumping in high school, it was like natural for me. Uh, uh, and and there was a lot of mistakes that I made. I looked at my 27 plus jump, and I really didn't use my arms. My arms was like down at my side, basically like I was still running.
Is that the one? Kate, is that the one you showed the picture? You showed us that picture?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I got my arms up right at the very end and followed through in the landing, but through, and I did a 2.5 hitch, but and like I said, I was self-taught, and I really didn't start learning the long jump until the latter 3 years that I was jumping.
Well, Randy, the biomechanist angles right now are saying that, long jump takeoff is like 20, 25 degrees. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
Yeah.
So how are
Carl
we?
was lower than that, but Carl had such tremendous velocity to get away with it.
So how do
Mike
we
was
teach
24.
forward height? Because what I've seen is kids will either, like Norm says, they'll come in and just do a high knee off the board, or they come in and they're told to jump up, and so they're basically high jumping off the board. How do we teach the forward height?
Teach them how to gallop.
Is to go back to the gallops?
It's a gallop.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, the gallops.
I mean, it's crazy to think about, but I can take somebody and probably, if I'm in speaking the same language, you can teach somebody, if they can figure out how to gallop, how to do the last 2 steps with a low heel recovery to the board and a lowering of the center of mass on the penultimate step itself, to where they feel the first time they feel it. And I'm sure, Norm, the first time you felt this kind of pop at takeoff, it probably scared
It scares you. It scares you.
Yeah,
it does.
It's funny. I
You.
tell athletes all the time, the first time you do it right, it's going to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, because when you get that kind of height off of a little pop up and stuff, and that first time it scares you. I mean, you forget what to do.
The first time I did it, I face planted.
Yeah. You
I
get
like
up
face
in the
planting.
air and
Yeah.
you actually forget you stop everything. You're trying to
Yep.
stop everything to get back on the ground and
The
start
hard part
flying.
is that you can you create that hinge moment. If you put it too far out in front of you, you just flip it
Boom.
over the top. If
Mm-hmm.
you still don't get any height, but you can
Right.
also block, like most of the Chinese kids are too far from the board. So when you're too far from the board, if you're not in that 2 meter zone, you end up blocking. You have a blocking takeoff, which will get you great height.
Height, but
You won't get distance because you lose too much
the
horizontal
speed.
velocity.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well, Paul, you've got a perception that's a little different topic for why our jumpers, maybe at the high school level, are not progressing. You're still here, I think. Yeah, there you are. Do you want to share that? Paul, are you there?
Yeah,
There you
yes, I'm
are.
here. Sure. Um, and sorry, I'm not on camera. I'm in bed, not feeling the best. But
Oh,
Oh.
so yeah, I'm seeing more and more that there's a lot less investment, and it's really not even just horizontals in the field events as a whole at the high school level. And as I put in the chat, we host um, almost every Friday night during the indoor season meets at some of you probably know JDL Fast Track in Winston-Salem, the one indoor
mm-hmm.
facility in North Carolina, and we have to line up volunteers, and you're pulling teeth to get coaches to work them, and every now and then you'll have some pretty talented kids, and some of the coaches they'll tell me that yeah we don't really work with that. We just go tell them like go see if you can figure it out.
oh,
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's just
Yeah.
not a whole lot of investment. Now there are like Norm mentioned that there are some colleges that really do have some outstanding horizontals coaches, and there are certain programs in the state that they really develop jumpers. But if you're looking to score points at the conference meet in the high school level now, you take a bunch of jumpers and develop them, teach them the basics, like Randy was mentioning, a penultimate step, and the postures and triple jump, and you're going to get that slightly above average kid is going to be either the outstanding athlete that was just kind of thrown in and hasn't really had much work on the runway or anything like that, or the school that just doesn't put any kids in the field events.
yeah. One thing I found with some of the college coaches that I've been around is they would find a good sprinter jumper, and then because the jumping component would sometimes lead to nagging injuries, they would pull them out of the jump because they wanted them healthy enough to score all the
Good.
points
Good
in the
points.
relays and the
The
sprints.
sprints. Mm-hmm.
So, we've lost a few good jumpers with that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So, it sometimes we're our only own worst enemies with some of this too. Aaron, you had a question about foot plant.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody did.
Yeah,
Yeah. They wanted to know if flat footed or heel to toe.
yeah.
Yeah, just to be clear, I was just asking about. Well, I guess there's two. Obviously, there's two steps. There's the penultimate and the last step, and so I was just curious what people think about flat-footed versus kind of more of a rolling step. I mean, I've learned, flat on both the steps, but I'm just curious what other people thinking.
That's
If
what
that's
I
too much.
always taught. Flat, flat.
I've learned from Tate, flat, flat.
Mm-hmm.
But what's
Mm-hmm.
happening is as the hips are coming through after takeoff, you're going to, it's in some cases they may look like it's a heel toe,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
I think
Because you get
go ahead, Jerome. Sorry.
okay. No, yeah, I think like I said, I put flat I teach flat flat, but if the hips are coming through, and not losing too much velocity at takeoff, it's going to look like it's a
Look
roll.
like heel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think what's important. I do teach flat as well, by the way. But when you look at the time signature of each step all the way down that runway, and the board being 0.12 to 1.4, whatever, right in there, that penultimate step is the fastest foot contact on the runway. And what happens is people start to camp on it. And if you go heel, Aaron, sometimes they'll camp hard on that heel roll through. and yet I want, in China, we call it the tiger paw. We create that. There used to be a tiger paw commercial. You guys heard me talk about for Michelin, I think it was, or somebody.
Michelin.
And so we call it the tiger paw. And I make them rip the track back with the penultimate, so it rips it through. Because remember, if you rip it through, you're going to create a cross extensor reflex action, which means that if you put that thing down, and of course, if you can't put it down, it's got to be a rip through this way.
Cool.
If you do that, the other leg is going to come flying through. Your free leg will come through low and quick to the board. So that all those things have methods, that you can use to create a change in whatever side of the runway, whatever foot you're talking about. But if you can't get that heel low, and if you're not in the right space and time, and you can't lower your center of mass, and if you're not fast, obviously, these are 4 big ones, you're not going to jump far. If I can get them little bitty Chinese kids jumping 840s, that's just not right. Not compared to what, I see these kids. I'm in Paris going, damn. Now, I've really only coached Mike and Joe Green. In the long jump in the U.S. for the men, Mike, Joe, a couple others along the way, Tommy's son at one point too. But getting them, and this is the reason it takes so long. And I think Norm and you guys can probably talk to this too, but because you have to get the velocity up in order to jump far, it takes a long time to be able to do those last 3 steps at velocity. It's not that you can't achieve the velocity, but then to do those mechanics at velocity, that's the 18 months to 2 years that it takes.
And is that just repetition, or
repetition
on top of repetition on top of repetition?
That's right.
and competing the crap out of yourself, because the only way you really get to do that is in competition. Gotta get, and this is why the Chinese kids couldn't do it, because they do 4 competitions a year.
And the thing is once you're in practice, we try to limit the amount of approaches we do, because you lose velocity.
Right.
You're not hitting them neurons. And in competition, you get to attack it 3 or 6 times. 6 if you make the final, 3 if you don't. But you get to at least attack it every time out. But the only thing is, some colleges, they jump in kids 18, 20 times a season. That's a lot. That's still a lot. You still have to dose it correctly.
Yeah, definitely. Bazemore, you got a question here?
Yes, ma'am. Coach, you said something about tiger pawing when you hit the board, I guess the penultimate step. Can you go more, kind of, because I want you to, obviously I know how to teach kids how to gallop, but can I teach them the quote unquote tiger paw depending on the intensity?
Yeah, of course you can. If you look at, I don't know, Jerome, if you ever wore the Mitsunos, did you wear Mitsunos jump shoe?
No, I wore Nikes, but actually I did have a pair of Mizunos, thanks to Jack, but I wore Nikes.
So if you look back, Adrian, and of course I study the jump shoes, which definitely doesn't make me happy these days. But you'll see the Mizuno was the best. Carl Warm, probably still the best jump shoe ever made. Maybe not. But you'll see they had that fish scale bottom on them. That means that you could hit the ground and it would hold, because you're trying to be like a tiger. You're trying to use those spikes to grab that ground and those fish scales, pulling all the way through. The key there is you can't push off it. You don't push off the penultimate. It's an impulse step. It's a quick boom, boom, and get off it, and don't push yourself to the board. Again, back to the 2002, the women were too far away. They had a high heel recovery, and they pushed to the board. They killed themselves, because if you push to the board, your center of mass is going this way.
What would the cue then be?
The cue there?
The cue to not push.
You can't. Well, That's an athletic move, Sue. That's a move you make when you're too far away. You got to
Okay.
get them closer.
So
They
it's
got to be
just the
closer.
Yeah.
So they
okay.
got to feel, and maybe Nate, you guys have all felt this. Some of your best jumps is when you felt you were crowding the board,
Yeah.
and that's when you were really in the right place. You know,
Mhm.
you just weren't used to being there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another one of those. It'll scare you.
Quick reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have my hurdlers, so I started having the jumpers do it over women's height, over a 30-inch hurdle. I teach my hurdlers on this step down, the sweep back, heels back towards the hurdle you come off of, because that it propels them, that to that next step really fast. So I have the jumpers do it over 30-inch hurdle and just focus on, once they bring the knee and put the foot down, you want to be bringing the heel back towards the hurdle that you cleared.
Treat it like a B skip.
Yeah. It's like, and you get that pawing action.
As long as they don't straighten the leg out.
Right. Yeah. Can't straighten the leg. Yeah.
Yes.
Can't straighten the leg.
If you look at the two deviations, or if you wish, the two technical models, Carl would be one, Mike would be different. Carl was a push from the third step to penultimate, and Carl pushed long and hard, so he had a very long step. Mike, on the other hand, was a basketball player.
Right.
So Mike went up to go in this penultimate. I don't say it's the best way, but it was one of those things he did naturally, and so I had to figure out a way to make those two things work together,
right,
to the board properly.
Right.
So, Adrian, so you're looking at two ways. One is up and then down, so you're lowering your center of mass. The other one is horizontal and then down, lowering your center of mass. And I can't tell you which ones, because the difference between them is like a half inch.
Right.
I mean, it's just no big difference. 891 to 895. There's an inch a bit. It's not.
What do we think about this new World Athletics trial that they're going to do, or that they did?
Hate it.
Not
one jumper that I've ever spoken to agrees with it.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Not one.
I agree. No jumpers have agreed to it.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the other thing I heard, and Randy, you might be more with this than I am. I heard that the latest Adidas jump shoe is on the no good list.
It's illegal.
It's illegal.
Okay. My school actually wears Adidas, and the whole batch of triple jump shoes that we got, we can't use. Well, we can wear them, but they won't count for if anybody gets lucky and qualifies for nationals or worlds,
right?
They can't do it in that shoe. So we're actually waiting for the new batch to come out.
What was their reasoning? I mean, and I don't know why. I just heard this when I was in China in November. Why are they illegal? I didn't get a chance to see a pair.
Too thick.
They are too thick. Okay.
What, the sole? The front?
Yeah.
Front part?
I think they said the heel.
The heel?
I think they said the heel. If I remember correctly, because me and my head coach were talking about it, but I didn't really get into it. But I believe they said it was the heel.
Oh.
It's only like and it's only by like a millimeter.
Right.
Not even by much.
Because when you read those new shoe rules, if you will, on the World Athletic thing, because my question was, what about these shoes that are made especially for an individual athlete that are not available for everybody? Because isn't that part of the criteria, is that these shoes have to be available for everybody within a period of time? And yet I know, like in high jump, and those shoes aren't available for some of these athletes. And and there's some criteria in there that, if it's a contracted deal or whatever, but basically they're going to take the shoe after the competition and rip it apart to measure these things. So I'm like,
like a cork bat.
I can simply tell you that both Carl and Mike's shoes would be illegal today.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a story. When I was jumping, I wore an illegal shoe that Puma made me. But when they first came out with the shoe, it had the thicker forefront, and
Mhm.
they said that was illegal. So Puma made me a shoe, and they covered the whole sole with the hide of the shoe. So I was wearing a shoe that had about a half about close by a little less than a half an inch lift in the front. But no one knew. It looked like regular shoe
Is it
that
pulled up?
everybody else was wearing because they when they covered the hide. I mean, went from the sole
Yeah.
over, so it was hidden, so actually that couple of 27-foot jumps I had in, in 70 was illegal jumps. No one knew it, you know.
Well, they're gonna
So,
be ripping the shoes apart here. Aaron,
yeah,
what's up?
yeah.
Aaron.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna just give you guys some more details about the shoes. So
Good.
I unfortunately know a little too much about the situation because essentially what happened was anybody that was wearing that shoe at World Indoors basically was potentially going to get sanctioned. So
Mm.
when FIA won World Indoors, there was a lot of stuff with like lawyers and World Athletics that nobody really heard about. But long story short, the problem was that Adidas didn't fully fill out all their paperwork with World Athletics when the shoe came out. So even though that shoe was out during World Outdoors last year, and they had all these shoe checks or whatever, World Athletics actually didn't know that shoe existed, according to them. And because Adidas didn't do what they were supposed to do with all the paperwork, they got a hold of a shoe that was not within the tolerances of that they would expect. So the rule is that the heel has to be less than 25 millimeters, but the front also can't be higher than the back. And so the front
Yeah.
actually is 1.7 millimeters too high. And so the way they remediated this issue is that for the top athletes or people that had good agents or whatever, they released a new shoe liner. So shoe liner is basically an insole. Take out that
Mhm.
shoe liner. It was a little thinner in the front, and so that made the shoe compliant. But that kind of screwed over everybody else because they didn't have access to the shoe liner.
Yeah,
As
I
of
know it's something like that.
Yeah,
as of
see?
today, there are two new colors that they came out with for the Adidas Triple Jump shoe, and those do have the proper liner in them. So if you buy the most recent shoe, those are available. If you want to get a shoe liner, it's going to be very, very difficult unless you know somebody at Adidas or you have a really good agent. So for college kids, are pretty much screwed by that.
Yeah,
But they're
it's
not going
it's the black one with the orange heel, yellow heel.
Those are
That's
the
the
yeah,
new
new
the
one.
ones.
black ones are like the Paris edition. Those are not legal.
No,
There's a
no,
there's
no.
a like a greenish one I think that came
Yeah,
out.
the greenish. Yeah, the light green.
The light green is okay
I
or
can
not?
tell you in a
Wait,
second.
actually, the light green was from last year. The black ones are out now.
They have no. There's the black ones came out. They might not have been available to everybody, but the black ones came out last summer. So a lot of the
Yeah,
elite
we just got
athletes
those. Yeah.
at Paris had those shoes. The ones that
Hmm.
are like this is from Adidas, and I can send it out if people want to see it. But
Yeah.
the ones that don't require a sock liner replacement they're like these lime green ones and these white ones with like red and black accents on them. You can buy them in America at least today, but they're not quite available worldwide, as from what I've heard.
Wow. So this adds a whole
Yeah,
other component to getting your equipment ready.
yeah.
Uh,
My head coach just told me it was thickness. So basically, what Aaron was saying.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
Aaron,
and like I mean,
have
again, I've been like really in the middle of this, so I have official stuff from Adidas on this, and like again, they were
Hmm.
they were threatening to take away medals and things like that, and
yeah.
Wow.
there were people that were involved with it because Anna Pelletier, who got a medal, had them. British woman who won the pole vault was wearing the same shoes, so it was like a big thing. But
Oh, gee.
the
Yeesh.
pretty touch, and Adidas got sanctioned. I don't know how much they got sanctioned for, but they had to pay World Athletics something.
Oh man.
Wow.
Paul, you've got a question here for us on the penultimate.
Right. I have had at least one and maybe one or two more coaches that were recruiting athletes I coached that suggested if we have a combo jumper in high school, which, on a high school team, if we've got a great athlete there, they're probably a combo everything. They're almost like a decathlete or heptathlete at some point during the season, trying all the events. But they suggested that if a kid does long jump and high jump on a regular basis, we should consider having them take off of different legs. But since the penultimate is, a little more pronounced and deeper on the high jump, because this could create bad habits that carry over into the long jump. And I was just curious to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Well, that's a good one. I can't say as I ever had to worry about it. Because
I can't hear him. Is anybody else having trouble?
Can't hear.
No? Andy, he asked about the questions in the chat about a high jumper, triple jumper, or long jumper, high jumper, penultimate, that a college coach is telling them they should take off with the opposite legs because the penultimate's is affected. I've never heard that.
What?
Triple jump, I have for sure. Triple jump, long
Triple,
jump.
yes.
Triple and long, I've heard, but long and high jump, I have never heard that.
No, I mean, the penultimate and the long and high jump are just a matter of degrees, degrees of lane and degrees of drop of center of mass. I mean, you're traveling 7.5 meters per second versus 10.8 to 11 in my world. So yeah, I don't think that there is. I mean, it's almost like bowling versus long jumping. It's really so different because of the velocity component that I don't think it should be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, they're totally separate setups.
I know that heptathletes do this, which drives me nuts. They'll long jump off one leg and high jump off the other, and then they'll hurdle off the same leg as their high jump, which is kind of interesting. And that's an older thought process. I don't think the modern hep, unless anybody's coaching hep in here, I don't think the modern heps do that anymore. I certainly wouldn't, because I think you've got. I mean, when your legs are set up the way they are, you're only taking 3 jumps, let's say, and you might take a few more in the high jump, but if it's all about meet management and managing the event, you shouldn't be taking enough to where you get tired. Let's put it that way.
Right.
If you do, you're not fit.
I know the long jump, triple jump, the athletes said take off different feet because of the sequence of the jumps or the steps. So that's the only thing I'd heard.
Okay, thanks.
Aaron,
I think the high and long off of the same foot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What's the kid? Javon Harrison. He jumps off the same foot.
Did you jump off the same one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's take off in the long and in the high jump to the same foot.
Aaron has put a bunch of pictures here in the chat of the different shoes. So if you are involved with those, you might want to look at that or save the chat, which you can do, and have the pictures.
Yeah, I'm gonna resend. I sent them directly to you, Sue, by mistake. I'm gonna send them to the whole group.
Oh,
they're in everyone now, Aaron. We can see them.
I sent another one. I sent the ones that are good and the ones that are not good. So I think I just sent the ones that are good.
The good ones are the lime green and white, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, we got those.
While you're sending that, I put a video in, and for those of you who might have seen it already, I don't know, but this drill, the cup drill that I have, it's 4558 MP4 that's in there. If you download that and take a look at it, it's such the cup drill is not quite set up right. I happened to find one online. I was looking for one the other day. One of those cups should be a different color. And what you do is you take off, let's say in the triple jump, I use this for the triple jump. I don't use it as much for the high jump. I know people that have. And what it teaches you is to drive off of that board, penetrate with the hips, put that foot out there, and then your foot goes to that cup and it stops. And now your body passes over your foot. And now it starts to teach the proper free leg action in the hop, in the triple jump.
So which cup is the different color?
It's not. It should be right where his foot stops let's say it's about the fourth version of the guy going over.
Okay.
Because the first one is really difficult. But so if you have 4 cups or 3 cups, it'd be one in the middle. Just make a red and one yellow one. And when they get to that yellow one, their foot does not try to go backwards anymore. Now your hips pass over the top of your foot. That's the sense of moving through the door that you might have heard me talking about. Your body keeps going and your foot stops. This is really important. People who force that foot back, they set themselves up for all kinds of big problems going into the step.
So this is the hop.
This is what you would do to teach the proper free leg action in the hop. So let's say you're doing a right. This would be what your left is doing. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
It's a simple drill. Some people will use a 6-inch hurdle to do the same thing. I happen to like the cups because it gives them that play, and it's really easy to film. It's really obvious that they've gone past it or they're forcing it back, and the athletes can see it and they can then self-regulate on the next one.
Okay, we're down to about 10 minutes left. Are there some pressing topics that we haven't hit here that you would like to address? Let's see. Reggie, you just came on here. Why don't you ask? Is it Reggie Henderson? Hankerson? There you are. You're muted.
All right, here we go.
There you go.
Truly enjoying this session. My assistant coach and I are on this Zoom as well. Now, my question is, we have I just put it in the comments. We have about a 6'4", 6'5" triple jumper who has the concept of this very elementary. Our season starts in 2 weeks. So to improve him, would the gallop be a good place to start? The heel toe, I mean, he hadn't been jumping but maybe a year. So we're trying to advance him because our season starts in 2 weeks. What would be the best way to just really get him up to par to what he needs to do?
Triple jump?
Yes, sir. Well, triple and long, but mainly triple jump.
Cup drill. Get his hop right first. Get him on top of the board. Get him understanding what that free leg side does. Because if you watch Jonathan, you watch the great ones do it, you'll see that their leg stays in one spot and their body passes through that spot. In teaching them how to do that, that's triple jump 101, triple jump hopping 101. And it doesn't get taught well in the United States. And some guys do. I mean, there's certainly people that do it, but if you take that cup drill and set him up, and I can't tell how far to put it for him. I would have to see it, but in general, if you know that, let's say a hop is going to be 6 meters, then the apex of that hop is going to be somewhere around 3, and maybe just a touch before. Then you set that other colored cup in there, and you start to teach them how to. Because what it does is it sets up the left side, the other side of the body, as sort of a posting side. So the other side can do what it needs to do to finish the hop. And once you feel it, it won't go away. I mean, once you feel it, you got it. It's like, oh, this is how it's done. I had a young Chinese girl. I only had her for 2 months, but I taught her this, and she hit 1430 in practice in the second month.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, she was blasting it, and I'm like, oh, this girl. If they would let me kept her, she would have been a finalist in Tokyo.
Is there any type of instructional video for that?
No, it's just that I haven't done one.
Okay.
But if you look at it, sorry, I haven't done a lot of videos, guys, and I probably should at some point, because there's just some these. I guess at one level, I don't think that they're unique thoughts, because I figure a lot of other people are thinking this way, or have these things that they can do. But if you look at that little video, that video actually was made to show how to do the free leg in the long jump, but it really works well for the triple jump.
Oh,
If you watch that to its finish, it's a kid that's actually learning how to long jump and what to do with his free leg after takeoff. So how to extend and stop his rotation, you know. But that's exactly what you do in the triple jump with that free leg. You pass the door.
Thank you.
Yeah.
excellent. Anybody else have any last minute questions here?
So could I piggyback off of something that Norman said? If people that were on the call with Carl a few weeks back think back to what he said, and Norman, you're right. He always thought of himself as a jumper who sprinted, and he said when he got faster on the runway, when he got better at his approach, his sprinting got better. And that when you couple that thought with the idea that in his prime, he was running 135, 140 feet. I think that's like 40-meter approach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, when he got better on the runway, when he got faster on the runway, that's when he, quote, became a sprinter. And it definitely wasn't the other way around. And to this day, he doesn't think of himself as a sprinter. He's a jumper who had success as a sprinter.
Didn't
So
he say
that mirrors what you said, Norman, as well. And he also loved the Mizuno jump shoe.
Yeah.
As another aside.
Well, and Charles Austin did too, by the way, for high jump. That's what he won the gold medal with in '96. Didn't Carl say that he doesn't feel our jumpers are sprinting enough nowadays?
I think we all feel that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a general consensus.
Yeah, I mean, Mike was fast, Larry was fast, Conley was fast, Carl obviously was fast. And those are the guys back then. Now, why in 1991 they're running 1097 and 11.23 meters per second, and we got nobody hitting 10.8 right now.
Yeah.
We got a problem, and speed's one of them. I think to your point, Andy, it's very well taken, and that is that if you think of yourself as a jumper, you already know how to jump, and as you get faster, you're able to integrate your speed into your jumping much easier.
Yeah,
than to try to do the opposite.
That's right.
Randy, we've had a thing here in the chat about the cup drill, and that women are having more trouble with it than men. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah. They're either going too high or their women tend to force their leg back when they're hopping, and it comes from when they were little girls, they weren't strong enough.
Okay.
And this is a drill I would do in the weight room, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even do this on the track to begin with. I'd make this part of my weight room drilling, and I'd take like 6 cups or 8 cups, and I would put one in the middle, and I would just have them do a very simple hop drill horizontal, where they learn, because they don't know where they are in space and time, Jerome. Right. They just don't know. And back in the old days, I'd use an ankle weight or a wrist weight, so I could start to teach them where they were, where their arm was or foot was in space and time, because they really don't know where it is. And in many cases, the women don't know they're pushing that leg back. They just don't know it. Now, a bit of it has to do with, you've probably heard me say this, I think in order to be a great triple jumper, you've got to become a really good technical sprinter. Now, this is to optimize your ability. And obviously, there's guys that weren't great sprinters. But when you look at Jonathan coming down the runway, yeah, there's some sprinting flaws. But the dude's running. He's fast. And he's actually almost as fast on the runway as Carl was. Just amazing to think about. Over 11 meters per second. I don't know if we've got anybody in the U.S. can run 11 meters per second on the runway in long jump or triple jump right now.
No.
So, Jerome, to answer that, it's an issue of inappropriate or not the appropriate cueing when they're younger. And if they can start to learn to do that, and I always use Biryukova as the example. Biryukova makes triple jumping look so damn easy that it's ridiculous. She jumps 15-10 like it's a walk in the park because she lines it up well. And Jonathan and I had this discussion on stage about lining the whole body up. So this drill teaches them to line the body up. For some reason, they think they must move that opposite leg backwards in order to get their front leg forward. But it's wrong. It's wrong thinking. And in a lot of cases, the coaches don't know enough to correct it.
Do we know if Rojas is totally healed or how she's doing?
I don't know if we'll ever see her again.
That's a good question.
She probably went to Mueller. If there's anybody who's going to do it, Mueller will probably take care of it. And I'm sure that's where she went. But I've not heard a thing from or about her since.
Yeah. How bad was it? I know it was bad, but how really, really, really bad was it? Total rupture?
That's my knowledge.
It was a rupture.
But I had never seen anything about it.
Yeah, she's playing with long
jumping off the other foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
figured.
I know Jasmine Sowers from Great Britain, she ruptured her Achilles last year also, and she's coming back because she's posting things.
She's looking good too. Some of the training sessions look really good.
Yeah, she's doing well. So maybe Rojas is going to become the long jumper. That'll be interesting. Tara will have her hands full all the way.
Yeah,
Randy, thank you very much.
How'd you like to have that center of mass at takeoff, huh?
There you go.
Oh my God.
Unreal. That'll be our next conversation. But again, thank you so much for your time. Randy's going back and forth between US and China without a tariff. And we'll see.
They did try to give me citizenship.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Goodness.
They want to give me a green card and they wanted to make me a citizen. I said, no.
Please don't.
No, you can stay right here.
We need you.
Yeah.
We need
These
you.
days, I'm in North Carolina right now. I started working with a young man named Christian McCaffrey. So trying to bring him back from the brink.
Yes.
And, Randy.
Yeah.
Old school people don't know who he is.
Yeah,
they don't know what his heritage is.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the funny part, Norm, is I coached his dad.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's for those that don't know, you youngsters, Dave Simon was the world record holder in the 100 and 200. That's Christian's grandfather.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no, yeah.
That's right.
He's got great heritage.
Yeah. It was his mom. What did his mom? His mom play some sport.
Lisa she was a tennis player and a soccer player at Stanford.
Yeah.
And then Eddie McCaffrey, his dad, was obviously a great wide receiver.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Giants. Yeah.
Yeah, he has some super. You watch him run, he looks like he could have been a great sprinter.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I want to help him. And his dad told him, he said, Christian, just call Randy for Christ's sakes. Yeah. So it kind of gives me something to do.
Well, he made the right call, so that's it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Good luck, everybody, this week and whatever travels you have, and stay safe. And we'll see you next week. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.